Hi everyone. Today's video I'm going to move on to unemployment and the diagrams that are related to unemployment. So we'll start with structural unemployment because the diagrams for structural unemployment are very tricky. They're actually microeconomic diagrams. Even though structural unemployment is part of unemployment, which is a macroeconomic topic, structural unemployment can only really be represented using microeconomic diagrams because it is related to the labor market. Okay, so remember, you are drawing a diagram showing the labor market with, wages on the y-axis and quantity of workers or quantity of labor on the x-axis. So structural unemployment is a type of long-term unemployment, and it is part of the NRU, the natural rate of unemployment. The natural rate of unemployment is the rate of unemployment that the economy is at when it is producing its full employment level of output. So when we say the economy is producing YFE, the full employment level of output, what that means is that the unemployment rate is equal to the natural rate of unemployment. The natural rate of unemployment consists of structural unemployment, frictional unemployment, and seasonal unemployment. These three types of unemployment exist even when the economy is producing its full employment level of output. Basically, the full employment level of output means that cyclical unemployment is zero. There is only structural, seasonal, and frictional, which make up the natural rate of unemployment. Okay, so what causes structural unemployment? It arises from technological change. So any sort of technological change where machines are replacing workers. So think of the supermarket industry. They're adding a lot of self-checkout counters. Okay, that's reducing the demand for the cashiers that are checking customers out at the supermarket. Okay, so technological change. Changes in the geographical location of industries. So factories shutting down and moving overseas. That would cause structural unemployment. Changes in the patterns of demand for different skills. Okay, can you imagine when they introduced word processing software in computers, the demand for a lot of typewriters, workers who worked as typewriters, that decreased. So basically what happens is there's a mismatch between labor demand and labor supply. There's a falling demand for labor. So as you can see here, we've got price of labor, the wage, on the y-axis, and quantity of labor on the x-axis. This is what I mean by this diagram is microeconomic. It's not a diagram for the economy as a whole using average price level and real GDP. It's a microeconomic diagram just focusing on the labor market. So the demand for labor, for whatever reason, maybe because industries are shutting down and moving overseas, that's a change in geographical location, or there's technological change that's causing a decrease in the demand for labor. So what's happening is the demand for labor in this industry is shifting from D1 to D2, and the quantity of labor used to be Q1. Ideally, if the labor market was allowed to reach a new equilibrium, it would fall to Q2. However, wages are downwardly inflexible. They are sticky. The wage rate remains at W1 for a period of time because of what we call labor market rigidities. There's rigidity in the labor market. Wages don't always fall as they should for whatever reason. Maybe there are protections. Maybe businesses find it easier to just fire workers, all of that kind of stuff. So what happens is for a period of time, the quantity supplied of labor is still Q1, but the quantity demanded is Q3 because the wage is stuck at W1. Okay, so for a period of time, the difference between Q3 and Q1, so Q1 minus Q3, will be the quantity of workers that are structurally unemployed. Over time, we would hope that the wage would fall to W2 and then that unemployment would disappear. But that doesn't always happen. Because of the labor market rigidities, the wage rate is stuck at W1. So the difference between Q1 and Q3, Q1 minus Q3, that's the quantity of structurally unemployed workers due to the downward inflexibility of wages due to those labor market rigidities. So remember, there's a fall in demand for labor, maybe because there are technological change, machines are replacing workers, or there's geographical change, industries are shutting down and moving overseas. That's causing a fall in the demand for labor. Due to the labor market rigidities, the wage is stuck at W1. So you've got a quantity of workers who are structurally unemployed equal to Q1 minus Q3. Another thing that contributes to structural unemployment is another type of labor market rigidity, and this is a new classical argument against the minimum wage. So, minimum wage legislation and the activities of labor unions, okay, so minimum wage laws and labor union activities lead to higher than equilibrium wages. Okay, so this leads to a lower quantity of labor demanded. As you can see, if the market was allowed to reach equilibrium, the wage rate would be WE, that's the equilibrium wage rate, and there would be QE, quantity of workers unemployed. Okay, however, since the government and society deem that WE is too low, the government sets a price floor, a minimum wage equal to WM. Okay, that minimum wage creates a situation where the quantity demanded for labor, so the number of workers that businesses are willing to employ, is QD, that's the quantity demanded, but the quantity of workers that are offering their labor, which is the quantity supplied, is at QS. So now you have a difference. Basically, you have a surplus, labor surplus. You have more workers willing and able to offer their labor than there are businesses willing to employ them. This surplus, labor surplus, is also structural unemployment. Again, it's that idea of labor market rigidities. So labor market rigidities could be the downward inflexibility of wages, just because wages rarely fall. That's the Keynesian argument. But also it could be that there's a minimum wage in place preventing the wage rate from falling and reaching a new equilibrium. So this is basically structural unemployment. You'll notice in both diagrams, we are using price of labor on the y-axis, which is the wage, and quantity of labor on the x-axis. And this is what I mean by these are microeconomic diagrams that we use to represent a topic in macroeconomics. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below. Please hit that like button, that subscribe button. These things help with the algorithm. Share with your friends who might need help understanding structural unemployment or any other diagrams. I'm trying to populate this playlist as often as I can. Please consider becoming a member. I have about 100 videos now available for members where I go over exam style questions, calculation style questions, real world examples. You'll find a lot of really cool things. You'll also find my boot camp where I try to review all the syllabus in about 10 hours. That's really useful right before the IB exam. All right, let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below, and have a great one.